Hi, this is the Meme Team podcast where we talk about the logic behind virality because marketing isn't just logic, it's culture, and our podcast decodes both. I'm welcoming Julie Fredrickson, a managing partner at Chaotic Capital with a background in retail, to talk about advent calendars. I saw that she wrote the Substack on Twitter and immediately asked her to come on to talk about advent calendars because I love them so much. So I'm just going to let her get started and take us through what she wrote about in Substack, why it's important, why it's relevant, and why we're seeing them pretty much everywhere this year.
Calendars are a fascinating piece of retailing and merchandising because it's your chance to get a little bit of extra spend maybe out of a consumer you already have and help them buy in to trying something that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise. You sort of think of advent calendars as being like cute things for children that you like pull open and maybe there's like a chocolate, but they have become this cultural phenomena that now every brand in the consumer space has some kind of take on them. There's whiskey advent calendars. Bon Maman has a jam one. Like,
We got that one.
if you like toast, it's solid. It's a really it's a great advent
Yeah,
calendar.
yeah.
There's teas, but one of the categories in retail that has dominated the advent calendar space most is beauty and cosmetics. We took it a little bit from the Brits, who had like really fancy, overbuilt calendars from like Liberty of London. They're very expensive, hard to get, always selling out. And it kind of jumped across the pond to become something that now Americans are really as obsessed with. And so you can go to high or low. Saks Fifth Avenue advent calendar, Sephora advent calendar. The big weird winner this year, and I'm just going to pull it out just to like give you a sense of how like it's kooky big. Amazon decided to get into the game. And you can see that it is almost as big as I am. It's this giant, really gorgeous box. And like none of the edges are broken. And that got me kind of thinking a little bit as to, why did Amazon care so much about this big old box arriving to me unscathed and perfect? It's not particularly expensive. It's under $100 by $1. Pretty good assortment of high and low, lots of K-beauty, which is very trendy, and I'll get to that in a minute. But they have taken so much time and energy to make sure that every aspect of the calendar was perfectly done. That, like, any little tip or edges was protected in the shipping process.
So that came just the box, the green box, it didn't come wrapped in another brown box?
So this is where it got really interesting, and I probably should have, like, thought to bring this up on screen. But there was a very tall box that it was placed into with foam bolsters around the edges. And I have purchased thousands of dollars of electronics that have had less protection than this. So it was just kind of a fascinating moment of being like, because this would have required custom inserts, but you had to use packaging that Amazon already had. And so my theory on this is that this is representative of kind of two forces that Amazon is realizing they have the advantage now. One is the end of de minimis tax, which is you used to be able to fly things over and not have to go through customs for sub $800 purchases, which meant that smaller retailers had the chance to bring in products like K-beauty. That exemption is now gone and probably not coming back. And there's good reasons that we might not want, say, drop shipping to be flooding all of our systems. But because of that change, the retailers from Amazon, even Costco, have started importing the cosmetics brands that do particularly well in their category. K-beauty, French pharmacy beauty, those things are now being pulled in to Amazon's warehouse and specific stores. And this is pretty interesting because Amazon has been struggling to boot up its beauty retailing business because brands didn't really trust them because you couldn't really trust that you get this great brand experience. They would just dump stuff in a bag and ship it off to you, in the regular box that you're used to from Amazon. But if you want to gift something like this, it definitely requires quite a bit more protection. So I would love to know what product manager at Amazon was responsible for working through the specs with the logistics and boxing teams to be like, okay, it's got to be a box that already exists, but it has to perfectly contain it. What does it look like? And then print the foam. It's just a very, you don't go to that much effort unless you intend to win the category. And if you spend time on Amazon's beauty section now, you will notice that instead of random K-beauty stuff sprinkled around from different retailers that you might not really know, everything is under the brand, has a nice brand store. If you want to shop Medicube, great, they have a store. You want to shop Laneige, great, has a store. They are taking advantage of the import situation to show other American brands, "You wanna work with us? We're gonna take good care of your product. In fact, we're gonna invest in the category," and I think that this box is pretty representative of how serious they are. Because this box probably costs, somewhere upwards of, honestly, it's nice enough, I'd say it's probably over $10. So 10% of your whole COGS, um, that's a lot for spend.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think one of the things that really stood out is, I mean, I've heard rumblings of Amazon really wanting to focus on fashion and beauty to, kind of level up what people think of them, right? Like, I mean, most of the time people just think it's like where you get, fake merchandise or, just like the really cheap stuff. So Amazon itself doesn't really speak to quality. But they've been trying to change that for the past like few years by focusing entirely on fashion brands and now beauty brands.
Yeah.
So I think it's like really interesting that they're bringing that in by doing the advent calendar, which has been doing so well with so many fashion brands
Yeah.
overall. The one thing that also like stands out here is by seeing that big box, like the size of it, it already is telling me that they're not just using it as a throwaway for like samples, which
Mhm.
so many beauty brands have gotten caught up. I think it was like a couple years ago, Chanel was trying to
Yeah,
send just like small
huge
samplers.
disaster
Yeah.
from a because many influencers were really upset to be sent that,
Yeah.
where it
Well,
was like,
that one
okay,
it
like,
costs like $300 and they're like
yeah,
it's like a tube of like mascara and it's like nothing, right? So they were just like
it's
really
like
upset that they're paying that.
a full Sunday
Right.
Riley Good Jeans, which is like a $70 product right
Mhm.
now, uh, multiple, Biodance masks,
Mhm.
like, I think the cheapest thing in it was a Burt's Beeswax chapstick, which I guess you gotta have one that's not, like, a big wow
But
factor,
that's good for Burt's Bees, right? Because it's
right?
also putting their brand at the same like level or category as these other, K brands.
Shout out to Burt's Bees, you have been leveled up.
Yeah. But I love that. What stands out to me is somebody had to curate this box, right? To
Mhm.
find the different types of products that people would enjoy. Also to have it be things that people kind of know, but then also have it be things that they will discover.
Yeah.
So that's like a huge thing that's like happening right now. You want to be known as like a tastemaker, that you're talking about the future and then also, bringing in new things. Like we're already starting to think of Korean beauty products as being superior to American ones. I hear like people trying to bring in like the sunscreen because it's better than the one that we have here. They have different, markers
It's
for
true.
SPF.
It's been a problem for at least a decade. If you're into clean beauty, things of that nature, like there are very few ingredients that are banned in cosmetics, and yet somehow sunscreen, which obviously you want to make sure it's efficacious, but if the European Union has approved it, if big markets like Korea use it, like we should probably figure out something to import those things. We're just not getting it here, which is, a bit of a bummer because you should wear sunscreen. Boz Lerman was right. Sunscreen is great.
That's funny. That's a reference to Romeo and Juliet for all you Zoomers who probably haven't seen the movie. So you get, it looks like it was a box of 12 products that you get. It looks like they're not, the boxes themselves aren't all the same size, which means that inside they had to create. Yeah, can you show us the inside?
They, well, and I kept the stuff that they messed up just as my own, like, lol. The ink is
Oh.
upside down, but they're custom inserts inside the box.
Uh-huh.
And then you're just gonna see very little of me.
Yeah.
I am short.
I love that.
They have a whole scan and get
Like the QR
inspired.
code.
Yeah. So, which is honestly a pretty fun thing to experience. Like, I
Mhm.
definitely see how, with the assortment they chose, because it was a mix of assortment, right? Like within the 12, uh, there were body brands, makeup, and skincare, but it was also an even split between American brands, K beauty brands, and international in general.
Hmm.
So the sort of noticing that K beauty had just had another jump up, and with brands that like are already relatively well known and popular, like Laneige, which I personally love. Sydney
Mhm.
Sweeney is currently the face of
Mm.
that line. So it's also just kind of strange to see K beauty using white girls to market because the idea of like transporting the brand values into the American context,
Mhm.
we need to be shown a little bit more how the layering of it works and why.
Mhm.
And, having multiple products that you can layer is a really fun thing to get in an advent calendar.
Mhm.
I think you pretty much anyone would be happy to have this under a Christmas tree, but you're definitely gonna be pulling it out. Well, I guess it depends on if you do, your holy nights, because it's only 12. So this would be more of
Right, right,
like
right.
a holy nights to epiphany kind of thing, which is also interesting. I'm like, "Oh, do they not wanna do 24 nights? Who can say?"
Yeah, well, how much bigger would the box have been
I
with 24 boxes?
Right? Well, and this is what's so fun, and I'll just, like, show another advent calendar. This is Sephora's.
Mhm.
Does have 24, much smaller,
Mhm.
and is the same price point. So, I mean, and it's a pretty fun one, like, it's all glossy stuff, but,
Mhm.
like, you get quite a bit more product out of it, but
Mhm.
it's not nearly as an exceptional an experience.
Interesting. So it seems to me as if next year they're probably gonna have to level up their game in order to compete with Amazon because if it's the same price point, even if it is,
Mhm.
double the amount of products, the luxe experience of the Amazon box with full
Yeah.
sized makeup is probably gonna be preferable to a lot more people.
If they make that price point consistent, I can see them really winning the category.
Yeah. One thing I want to call out here is the color green that they're using in Amazon. It reminds me of that one that goes like popular on Twitter every so often. I forget what it's called. It's like making me think that they're also, paying attention to what people are talking about in terms of what
The
makes people think about
trends.
luxury.
Mm.
Hmm.
Now I wish I remembered. Well, especially because there's so many little details where they have foiled side appliques. Like, this is genuinely a nicer box than the one from Saks Fifth Avenue, which is a full luxury thing. I decided to go splurge. This is what is leading with. Now, Saks has long been kind of one of the gold standard luxury brands, but it's not really anywhere close in terms of, like, size and wow factor, although it does have a lot of interesting things in it. Beauty is kind of the interesting get yourself in the door space for multi-SKU type retailers, where if you have the chance to do more sampling, ideally paid sampling, right? Like, I paid for all of this,
Hmm.
then they'll have a better chance to remarket to me later.
Have you noticed what the brands themselves are doing to highlight whether they have been included in one of these boxes?
I'm guessing I won't see discussion of it until after it's in customer hands.
Mm-hmm.
Partially
That's
because
true.
January is such a dry month for
Hmm.
makeup in general that it's an opportunity giving a chance to be like, "Hey, did you like this face mask?" Partially because there's, like, a concept in beauty of, like, share your empties. Like, what did you actually finish?
Interesting.
So, it can be a little bit tricky to make sure that you are doing the kind of marketing to be like, "It was the right size for the consumer, they finished it, and now they want more." And
Mm.
this
I guess
definitely
that's part of the
trends.
process of what they're thinking, right? Whether they do wanna do the full size product, 'cause it would be a waste if the consumer doesn't actually use it versus, like, the sample size. So there is I guess, a, thin line to walk between, giving too much product and giving not enough product. One thing also in terms of marketing, there's like TikToks of like the unboxing of the beauty boxes themselves. That's how I found out about them being upset about the Chanel box,
Yeah.
because they were, posting on TikTok and then advising people to not even spend their money because they're like, it's not worth it. So I think brands have definitely learned from that. I wanted to also talk about Costco because
It's not always an advent calendar. Sometimes, like, it's like just box season is kind of the way I look at it, where it's like little teeny things where you actually get a chance to, test and see a bunch of stuff can also be
those are
merchandised.
reminiscent of the department store ones, right? Where it's like you get whatever you purchase and then you get the small little bag on the side that has the little
Yeah.
samplers of all their, of their products for you to try.
Which is still something that is done today and even are sold. Like Neiman
Yeah, I
Marcus
mean, I
is
was
the
just
like
at the department store and I got the Estee Lauder one.
yeah, which is always a classic, right? It's
Yeah.
one of those, like, you wanna see what's in it every year
Mhm.
because it tells you a lot about what the big brands think really matters. Right now, it seems like big box stores have decided that competing in beauty is worth their time because the stuff that I did pick up at Costco was actually, relatively interesting stuff. They actually had some J beauty, which is Japanese beauty. Costco often will just rotate through because if something's not in their core lineup, the chances are not good that it comes back. But if
Mhm.
something does so well that it becomes part of the core lineup, it's a slightly different story.
Well, one of the things I love about Costco is that it's well known that their store managers also have a lot of leeway to choose products that they think will do well with their particular customer segment, right? So I
Yeah.
know that if you go to the Costco's here that are in more of the Hispanic neighborhoods, they'll have more Hispanic products there, right? Versus the ones where you go to the white neighborhood, it's a slightly different like
We
product.
get bear spray in Montana Costco.
We do not have that here in LA where I'm at. So you see, yeah, that is like super interesting. And then it also reminds me of how Trader Joe's, right? They are
Yeah.
very quick to check whether their inventory is doing well because they have such small stores and such small spaces for the product lines that they don't want to waste any of that. And as soon as they start seeing that a product isn't doing well, they switch something back in. So I like that they're, constantly thinking about their consumer and what they're gonna like, and, not like in order to kind of move them in that direction. But it brings us back to the whole idea of being tastemakers, them having to have teams inside that are listening to like what people are asking for, keeping on top of, trends and stuff. What you mentioned here about, Japanese beauty versus Korean beauty.
Well, I definitely think that Amazon, being a very competitive environment, has people on their team. Actually, their head of fashion used to be my old boss,
Mm.
Christine Beauchamp, who has incredible taste, beautiful Texan blonde. I worked for her when she led Ann Taylor,
Mm.
and my guess is that because they know how competitive having good taste is and how big a loss it is if you don't,
Yeah.
they're they're putting in the extra effort. Particularly this year, what they're doing is trying to show that now that the resellers are a little bit more cleaned up and you're buying directly from the brand, that it's safer.
Mhm.
It's not commingled inventory where you're going to get fakes, because the fakes are a real problem. Like, you are actually getting the thing and caring about the brand, which is important because counterfeiting is rife in K beauty. And it's actually pretty hard to spot. They're relatively
Mm.
clever about it. So I
Well,
think
sure, not just
that
K-beauty,
is
but most of Amazon products, right, that get sold on there, like, you hear about that all the time. But it's interesting that they're focusing specifically on beauty, and I assume fashion.
I think that's what's so interesting, right? Is that if they can move that trust needle from like, "Oh, well, I get my basics from it," to, "Oh, actually, they probably are making good choices." Like, the team members there are with it with pop culture, and, like, now that we're at the end of this massive, like, year for K-dramas and the movies and everything
Mhm.
around it, that's the thing you do wanna merchandise in, and the fact that they're just telegraphing so strongly, "We have the brands are good." I wanna say to American brands, like, "We're good enough to carry you."
Mhm.
And because the K-beauty brands wanna reach this market because they know, like, American teens are just like, they want it.
Mhm,
They want
mhm.
it so bad. Being like, well, if we can deliver this, parents are going to be happy.
Yeah.
Maybe Estee Lauder should be selling their like night cream there instead.
That is, yeah, an interesting thing to think about, right? Whereas they're using the Korean beauty popularity in order to try to force American companies to get onto Amazon and sell their products there because they're like, well, if you're not going to sell here, we're going to raise these Korean beauty brands instead of you.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you rather be the ones that we market this product for? So I do wonder if the relationship balance is going to change from Amazon having to go to them to ask them like, hey, come, be part of our beauty box versus now beauty companies are going to go to Amazon and be like, hey, feature us in your box, this year. But then also whether they'll start creating multiple boxes. So in
Yeah.
order to bring in more beauty products into the fold. So they'll have like the Korean one, like American brands or something. They'll have to figure out how to do it so that it's not so like disparate, but then that'll be another marketing opportunity both for Amazon, but then the beauty companies to be featured.
Well, and I think what's interesting is that there are a lot of different ways you can slice those segments where it could be only color cosmetics or only skincare, or you could have like multi brand hair care, or it could be
Mhm.
one brand samplers. Like there are
Yeah.
just so many different ways that you could do it.
Hmm.
And I will say I have purchased 4 of Sephora's multi brand samplers this year. And they were all pretty bad. Like, genuinely, I did not feel like I got much value. It's interesting because Sephora is owned by LVMH, right?
Mm-hmm.
LVMH being like this giant luxury conglomerate, and they
Hmm.
have slowly gone down market, and that's gonna put them in competition with Amazon, which is a very dangerous place to be.
Yeah.
Like, I would
I
not
mean, I
want.
have heard rumblings that Sephora has kind of gone down in quality and that people are shopping there less and choosing to go direct to brands. I think a huge thing of that was they changed the rewards program, right? Where it's
Yes!
like
Oh my
it
god.
was no longer as beneficial to like the top users that like really counted on getting those benefits.
I treat Sephora points like my husband treats travel points, where like it's partially a game. Like you're
Yeah.
definitely doing it to be like, I want everything. I want to see what's sampled, how like it's presented. Do the products change? Like for instance, they have now at Sephora had Laneige as the birthday perk for like members of their loyalty program for like
Hmm.
years running. I
Hmm.
have like stacks of them and I love the brand, but
Yeah.
it's also like, why am I spending $2,000 a year at Sephora, which I do, guilty to get that charge.
Yeah.
But the benefits you used to get from it were always, not only would you get samples anytime you were purchasing, but you would be able to like choose how much like sampling points you could allocate. And the higher end ones, which you were always really looking forward to, were like 500 point things where you would get like this perfect like set of travel goods.
Hmm.
They just don't do them anymore at enough depth. So you cannot ever get to them. Like, even if you
Mm.
open the app the second it hits, and I'm the kind of person who does that, they're gone.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's like a huge thing that like upsets consumers, especially if you're spending that amount of money,
I know.
right?
I'm very loyal to Sephora. Well, because it's like one of those things where Sephora traditionally has, to your point, held that tastemaker position
Hmm.
where it's like, okay, these are the new brands I'm going to get. What am I
Hmm.
going to learn? Their imprintor really mattered.
Hmm.
And I think that they're losing that position in the market now.
Yeah.
And whatever they're going to do to fix it is going to have to be pretty spectacular.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, they're not the first company that has found that competing against Amazon is not
Hard.
easy. Something that I'm learning, not just through this, but just Amazon's whole move from trying to sell everything cheaply and sending it to you. They still do that, but because they're trying to go up market with fashion and beauty, they're really investing in that. And it's working. Companies are starting to trust them more. That which is shown by the companies creating pages on Amazon, and you can go through their product lines, and search for what you want. But then also they're using what Amazon invented, which is like the whole logistical system of warehouses. They're now offering that up to brands and making it so that like, hey, we will hold your products for you and get it so that it's easier for you to ship them to your consumer instead of you having to hold all this like, merchandise and then figure out how to send at probably a bigger cost, right? Because it's like Amazon has already figured out all the logistics of like where their warehouses are, where the trucks go, how they're shipping everything. They've also mostly figured out the last mile problem.
As someone who has had to vet 3PLs and figure out the logistics for a direct-to-consumer brand,
Hmm.
getting the packaging just right is something that, really did make or break some of the early brands who wanted to go direct, and
Hmm.
Amazon was very confused as to why, like, "But why not use our
Yeah.
3PLs? Why not use our warehousing?" They just never showed that they had the capacity to ship as well as they're doing now.
Hmm.
And I think, like, that's probably that in the import tax situation
Hmm.
are going to put pressure on American brands to be like, "Oh, okay, actually, this is probably where we're headed, and it'll be a better customer experience." Like, this is capitalism working for a
Yeah.
change.
Yeah,
This is
definitely.
good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, cool. Let's just wrap it up with a few takeaways. That actually, one that I have from what you're talking about here is how they're using their operations and their whole logistical, wherewithal to market to American companies to come into the Amazon folds. The water is warm. We will help you, like ship your products directly to consumers. We'll also become a way for new customers to find out about you. One thing I do wonder is when you were talking about the remarketing, will they give the brands the information they need for the brands to then follow up with them, or is it only going to be within the Amazon ecosystems? Obviously, each brand is going to want that data themselves, so that's probably going to be a battle that they have there. Probably the earlier that they get in on it, the more Amazon is willing to share that. But I think
Yeah.
eventually they're not going to have have that open.
Data is so very precious.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
and it would be a sign of good faith, be like, "We will actually give you a deeper look into the sales
mhm,
and who is buying and why." Like, I think that would be very magnanimous of Amazon because
mhm,
they're offering a lot of distribution, and that's valuable for brands in a totally different sense. But to actually give the brands more of like, this is who is like buying, and this
mhm.
is, how my suspicion is they'll be like, and you can do the remarketing and follow up here with
Yeah,
us.
exactly.
So,
Um, definitely. Another thing that stood out here is how they're kind of building those trial ladders where it's like you get the samplers, you then get minis, and you get full size. So you have the different brands try different things. Sephora tried smaller sampler. Amazon is trying the bigger ones. I'll be curious to see which one is going to do better once those like TikToks start coming out from consumers doing the unboxing videos. But I think it's a great way to, whet people's appetite for new products and start creating that like tastemaker brand or in persona that they want to create for themselves, which seems to be kind of, diminishing a little for Sephora.
I'm such a fan of the way Sephora has traditionally done its merchandising that it makes me a little sad to
Hmm.
see that they're struggling with some of this and keeping up. Not that they don't sell some of the things that are trendy, like, it's been a huge year for gourmand fragrances in general. So that might be an Ozempic thing, apparently. That if we can't eat it, well, we'll smell it. And those are like the trends where they're doing relatively well, and they had Clinique's Black Cherry, which is
Mm,
like a classic, it's an iconic lipstick, and it
mhm,
goes on like as it looks like your lips are stained with cherries,
mhm,
and that was in the box, but they could be doing a better job keeping up. And then also
mhm.
traditionally, Sephora was selling to 20 and 30-year-old women, and it feels like they're merchandising slightly further down now, and that just may be the choice they make.
Well, but that's their consumer, right? If we look back on like when Sephora was at its height, all those women have now aged. So either they need to go and find that younger consumer that does pay, that smaller amount and like still wants to use Sephora the way that we used to in our 20s, or they've got to start giving women that expect
Yeah.
more and expect better things. And I think maybe that's kind of where they're faltering a little because they're not meeting a target consumer where they're at anymore, which is giving the opening to Amazon to kind of take that on a little bit more.
Where do the 30 and 40-year-old consumers land?
Mhm.
And can Amazon capture both the younger consumers and the yesteryear consumers of trendy beauty who are,
Yeah.
hopefully edging up a little bit. Because I should be graduating into Saks Fifth Avenue, and I'm like, uh, I don't
That feels
know.
like older though. That feels like 50s, 60s, you
50,
know?
50, yeah. So, well, and this is like an interesting point of, millennials being a bulge bracket
Mhm,
generation. Um, if mothers are shopping at Saks, well,
mhm.
the grandmothers now, where are the millennial mothers shopping?
I feel like some of them go way younger, and then some of them are going, like, way higher, and then there's nobody there for that. Yeah, the messy middle.
Yeah. Which sort of doesn't make sense to me from a demographic perspective. Like, there's this huge
Right?
trend of menopause beauty.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, but Gen X is a smaller generation than millennial. So why is that taking the retailing space? Now, maybe Gen X has a lot more money than millennials. I'm not
Mm,
actually sure.
yeah.
But
Some
there's definitely
millennials.
something strange about there not
Yeah.
actually being millennial serving brands that are,
Mhm.
quality better than what you spent on in your 20s. The whole world is not transitioning well into millennials' middle age.
Yeah, well, I feel like most people still don't consider millennials to be middle-aged, you
See,
know?
the
It's like
second I got over 35, I was like, "That's middle-aged." Boom.
it should be. That's technically what it is, right? It's like you're either very matronly or still wearing things that you probably shouldn't be wearing anymore, you know, or using makeup. I've also started seeing that the younger demos, because they're doing, they're getting Botox, or they're getting lip filler, and like, buccal fat removal, like they're starting to look older.
Th It's wild. It's very strange, and because I write this beauty Substack, mostly as like, an excuse to share past knowledge, I am regularly talking to younger women and trying to be like, "No, no, you don't need the Botox, it's fine." Because like, buccal fat removal, you will regret that the second your
Mm,
face starts to lose volume. Like, there's 2 choices in beauty. You're either gonna hollow or you're gonna sag. And if you remove the fat, you're gonna hollow and sag. Like, there's just no winning there, which is why you're seeing
yeah.
these plainer facelifts where, like, it's sort of pulling up
Mhm.
and around. And, I just don't know where that's gonna go because you see,
Yeah.
like, 25-year-olds look like they're 40-year-olds. I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a huge
strange."
thing right now, right?
Yeah.
And people are starting to comment on it. I do think that there are certain things that millennials did that they also regret, right? Plucking your eyebrows too much. There was
Ooh,
also the micro planing, right? Women are
yeah.
starting to realize that that ended up messing up their skin a lot more
Hard
than
on
they
the
thought it
pores.
would. hmm
Yeah.
The like eyebrow
Healing?
coloring that they
Oh, permanent
no,
color.
yes,
Yeah.
where it's, like, starting to shift and it's no longer
Yeah, I'll
looking
move
like
over.
it's yeah, obviously millennials have made mistake as well, but those don't seem to be as long lasting as actual plastic surgery.
There's quite a bit of chatter actually as to, like, whether or not just being aggressively natural will become a huge trend
Mm,
because we're overdoing it on, like, things like fillers,
mm,
Botox, like, the different because we see plastic surgery way more than we did when we were younger
mhm.
because, they there's now a whole influencer culture dedicated to sharing them,
Yeah.
which, I
It's not
feel
just
for
that,
the
but
20-something.
celebrities, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we had, the whole Kim Kardashian and her sisters, right? Like, that was a whole aesthetic and, like, a move towards that. And then you now have this, like, clean beauty, which is, supposedly supposed to be, more natural, less, makeup, but it's still a lot of makeup. It's just a
A lot of
certain
makeup.
aesthetic that you're, putting on. So it is interesting to kind of see, like, it changing aesthetically, but not what it actually means in terms of how much makeup you're actually using and like the products that you're using.
Yeah. Well, because there was, Dewy White Bitch,
Yeah.
was a huge millennial trend,
Uh,
and, we just completely moved on from it. Now, like,
mm.
blurred matte is, like, the look, and, I think we'll probably start pulling away from the fake.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, and people um men can't tell that there's a lot of makeup
So
being
cute.
used.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really cute.
So it is interesting to see the discourse when that comes on. Thank you so much, Julie, for joining.
Thank you for
Where can
having
people
me.
find you?
So I am mostly on Twitter at Almost Media, or you can find me on Substack at nicepackaging.substack.com.
Thank you. You can follow us at Meme Team Pod on YouTube and then at Meme Team Podcast on Spotify. And then we'll see you next week. See ya.
Bye.